So the responsorial psalm, the seed that falls on good ground will yield a fruitful harvest. So it's Psalm 65:10, and
Amy, you're sitting in Denise.
Amy, you're in Denise's spot, so you're it.
You have visited the land and watered it. Greatly have you enriched it. God's water courses are filled. You have prepared the grain.
The seed that falls on good ground will yield a fruitful harvest.
Thus have you prepared the land, drenching its furrows, breaking up its clods, softening it with showers, blessing its yield.
The seed that falls on good ground will yield a fruitful harvest.
You have crowned the year with your bounty, and your paths overflow with a rich harvest. The untilled meadows overflow with it, and rejoicing clothes the hills.
The seed that falls on good ground will yield a fruitful harvest.
The fields are garmented with flocks, and the valleys blanketed with grain. They shout and sing for joy.
The seed that falls on good ground will yield a fruitful harvest. You have visited the land and watered it, so that God has visited the land and watered it. Isn't that kind of an amazing statement? So God is near to his creation. He's near to all of us, but he's also there in creation. And his presence is necessary for the land to flourish. I mean, God is close. I mean, even to all of his creation, he's close to it, which is an amazing thought. I mean, we know that we should know that God is close to us. Most people don't really know that. I mean, if they did, they would probably live differently. But we're filled with the Holy Spirit. God dwells within us, right? So we're temples of the Holy Spirit. We're children of God. But God is also there in his creation. And he visits it, and he cares for it. God's water courses are filled. You have prepared the grain. So every farmer knows that water is necessary, right? Every farmer. I mean, anybody that grows anything knows water is necessary. And for life to grow, otherwise the seed dies, right? If you plant a seed and there's no water, that seed, so a seed is a seed has a life expectancy too. We plant like tens of thousands of pounds of seed a year. And sometimes, even more, but hundreds of thousands of pounds on like airports and stuff. And that seed has to be planted within a year. Otherwise, they won't accept it. Because what happens is a germination, there's a certain percentage that'll never grow. And so the germination rate will go down and down and down and down. And then you'll have a lot of weeds, but you won't have much, much of the seed that you wanted to grow at that particular point. And so, for example, over at McNamara, at Delta, in the whole airport over there, the seed that we planted was designed to confuse the Canadian geese. So when they're flying over it, they get dizzy and they go away from it.
Really?
It's amazing, yeah. It actually makes them kind of like nauseated, so they won't go into that. And so it's a unique seed that they have that is for that particular purpose. And that's good because you don't want geese going into jet engines, right? I mean, and that's the last thing you want is geese all over your, squawking about all over on the runway. That's not good. Thus you have prepared the land, drenching its furrows, breaking up its clods, softening it with showers, blessing its yields. And so God does that with us too, right? He breaks up the clods. He breaks us up, right? I mean, if we become hardened and resistant, he'll break that. And sometimes punishment we get, it'll help soften our heart, right? And even diseases and sometimes, death in your, this will change your heart. It'll bring you closer to God.
Well, hopefully it either.
Well,
brings you closer.
it can, right? It can. Hopefully it does. But at the same time, if you have a hardened heart, it may get harder. So that's exactly right. Like Pharaoh's heart, when he'd have a miracle, it hardened his heart even more, and then he'd get hardened even more. And so that's kind of the paradox, and we'll hear it in the gospel too, is that those that have a hardened heart, will become even more hardened often. The rejection will be even more firm. You have crowned the year with your bounty, and your paths overflow a rich harvest. So the whole year is pictured as a crown made with the abundance of God. That's kind of nice, isn't it? When you see the bountiful harvest in the fall, that's why a lot of times at Thanksgiving they'll have a cornucopia of all the different plants, and it'll be very bountiful, and a lot of the artistic pictures will show that. And when you plant a seed, you have to have faith, right? Because you don't know if that thing's going to grow. I mean, and you're completely relying on God to supply the rain. If you don't have an irrigation system, I mean, and people didn't have irrigation systems for thousands and thousands and thousands of years for the most part. If you're relying on God for the right temperature and moisture for that thing, to grow, and sunlight, and not hailstorm or wind or all these other things that could wipe out your crop. Hopefully no locust or those other things that'll wipe out your crop. So that's why it's kind of amazing when you have to have faith when you're planting, when you're gardening. Especially you're relying on God. If you have a terrible, let's say it got to 120, it doesn't matter if I'm planting seed, it's not going to grow. If you got a cool season grass, that stuff doesn't grow. What grows is certain weeds. You'll have a whole lot of them, but you won't have what you wanted to plant. The fields are garmented with flocks, and the valleys blanketed with grain. They shout and sing for joy. So the fields and the valleys are shouting and singing for joy. So all of creation is celebrating. Are we celebrating when God does good things for us?
Yeah.
We should be, yeah. That's good. We definitely should. And sometimes we see things in life and we don't even recognize what a blessing God has put upon us. That's so many times in your life, things will happen and you won't even realize that this was actually a tremendous blessing that God gave you in your life. And so sometimes even things that you may think, I even look at my whole cancer journey as a tremendous blessing. I am so happy. I wouldn't, when I get to the end of my life, I'm so thankful that I actually went through that, because that helped me become a better person than I was before that point. And the people I met, the interactions, the prayers, it's had a tremendous effect on me and on others. And I think, anybody else who's had cancer probably has similar thoughts on that, where it's changed you from who you were to who you, in a lot of ways. It can do the opposite. Some people get bitter and they, get mad at God. But ultimately, we're not living for this world, we're living for heaven. And I think once that's your perspective, that, if I were to go, which, they said it's all clear. They said it's all clear, so I'm not planning on it, Sam. But
that's not your plan.
That's not my plan. But, the reality is to live as Christ, to die as gain. And so we have to, no matter what happens in our life, this thing could fall down and the whole thing could collapse. We don't know. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. So we want to be ready and we want to be thankful. And whatever God's plan is, we got to just be there in the moment. And I think that changes the way you live too, right? Don't live as if you have 50 years or 100 years. You better be living like this may be the last time I see this group. But, I'm so thankful that everybody's here, because this could be the last day you see any of, we just don't know in life. So.
No guarantee.
But when you go back to the Psalm, the seed that falls on good ground will yield a fruitful harvest. And so we'll kind of keep that in mind, because once we get into the gospel, he breaks down the different types of ground. And our goal is to become the good ground so we can have a fruitful harvest. Because in the end, if we're not producing a harvest of good works that God is producing because of us by planting the word, then you might want to look at your life, because you're supposed to be producing a harvest. There should be a harvest that when they see us as Christians, there should be something that people see